Hey, how y'all doing? This is Dennis Jenkins with Dynamic Dad, positive attitude, full of energy and new ideas. Today, I got a brother in here from Chi-Town, original G. His name is Raymond. We're gonna come on today and we're gonna talk about fatherhood. He's gonna give you his perspective, his truths and his testimony, what fatherhood means to him, and what life is for him as a parent and him as a father, him as a man dealing with society, and just going through the different channels of life and how it's shaped him. So once again, my man Raymond, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. And you, how are you?
Man, I'm doing awesome, man. It's a Friday. The day is filled with expectations and blessings, and so I'm ready to do both of them at the same time. Achieve my goals today. So, brother, just tell me something,
Amen.
man. Who you are, man. Where you from, man, and let's talk about this thing called fatherhood.
My name is Raymond Richard. From Chicago, Illinois, born in Cabrini Green Projects. Um, uh, what else? I'm executive director of Brothers Stand Together, a 501
You want
as
on me?
well
Uh,
as BST Construction, which is a LLC. And to put them together, BST Incorporated and BST Construction went hand in hand because the incorporation, the LLC help finance the incorporation, and it's helping men and women coming home from prison to become productive members of society, as well as the high-risk youth in the community. We also feed the seniors and community as a large every month. So that's what we're doing. I am a author, a motivational speaker. I'm a poet, and I'm a universal activist.
all right, great, great. So you got a lot of things that going on, man. You like the octopus. You got all kinds of hands. You ain't everything, brother. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so tell me, man. So you brought all that up, man. That you come from the projects in Chicago. Um, did you come up with a single parent family or two parent family? How did that look to
Well,
you, man?
well, I was definitely born and raised single parent. Many are not aware, my father was what they call a PIMP, for real, a pimp, and he wanted to make my mother his bottom uh, whore, so to speak. And she had 11 brothers who disagreed with that. So off went my old man. So my mom was left to raise 4 children on her own. She used to work at the post office until she was able to hold on to that, and then from there we was on welfare and things of that nature. So I definitely understand about the single parent home, and I always wanted to know why my daddy left and why he didn't love us.
Yeah, you went on mute, but let me ask you this. So knowing that the dad was a street king and he ran, many people, many different projects, and he did what he could as as an OG to survive. How did that shape your mind coming up, knowing who your father was? You didn't have to wonder what he was doing. You knew, and everybody in the town knew. So what did that do to you as a young man?
What it causes a lot of resentment and anger. You know, it perpetuated some violence because I had a lot of resentment towards my daddy for doing what he did and how he just left us there. And it gave me a sense to never do what my daddy did to me to my church when I grew up. But yet I find myself in some situations reliving that same life, meaning that I'm not able to be there as much as I needed to be. But I did develop a relationship with my children.
Right.
So my daughter is 32. She's doing great. She's in Minnesota. She has her own construction company. Um, my son, which is 27, he is going to step in my shoes and take over BST construction someday. And then my 16-year-old is still in his adolescent years, so we're still working with him and trying to get him to find his
You went on mute. You on mute.
nonetheless. I apologize for the calls. Um, So yeah, man. So I work hard and diligently from my stints in the penitentiary and not being in my children's life in the beginning. I asked God to forgive me, in which He forgave me, and He gave me the opportunity to redevelop a relationship with my children. So there, I developed a relationship with my oldest, which is my daughter, and my oldest son, and now my young teenager.
Let me ask you this: it's a backtrack, they'll throw a little spin on it, man. So when you first found out that you was, you said you didn't want to be nothing like your father. So when you first found out that you were going to be a father, what did the thoughts go across your mind? Were you ready for that? Were you excited?
No, well, let me get that back. I was very excited. I was very excited, but I was uneducated, you know, because you produce the sperm doesn't make you a father. You know what I'm saying? And there's responsibility that come with that. So while I was excited to be a father, I wasn't. Let me say I wasn't prepared, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah,
Meaning
definitely.
I didn't have the financial stability, you know, in order to sustain this and do that. So I did go and obtain me a job, but it only lasted for so long because of the um the lifestyle in which I was living.
Right, right. And I brought that up because so many men or so many guys, put it that way, so many guys have children and they're not ready for the children. And so they go through, we all go through changes. But some
Yeah,
ignore the responsibility because they're not ready. So mentally, or physically, they're not ready for that. Like you said, the education, if you don't have anybody to teach you certain things, um, you don't go in that way because fatherhood is something that
yeah,
it's a learned, it can be a learned behavior, good and bad, from what you experience in your life. And so some people don't want to. It's like in school, if you're in the classroom, the teacher's giving you instructions how to do A, B, and C, and you decide, look, I don't want to do no classwork today. You're not going to do it. It's not like somebody's not teaching you, but if you're not picking it up or you're not learning, but if you have a
right,
substitute, the substitute is not going to give you the same lesson plan as the original teacher because they know they might be there for a day or two or three. So it's not their agenda to give you a long term, lesson. They're just there to give you something quick and easy to get through their day and your day, so that everybody can get something out of it that they had. You know, they had something planned to do. We did it, and that's about it. So did you
yeah.
have,
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was asking, even as you went through those stages and you had your first child. Now, as you go through your first child, I know with mine, my daughter, she got everything and anything. She didn't have to. She
Yeah,
almost had like a outfit to wear for 30 days. She had to wear the same outfit twice sometimes because I was buying her. We was buying her all kinds of clothes, or whatever. So as you get to your first child, now you have another child. What was your mindset that then? What was you at that time?
well, to back up on the first child, she was well taken care of, even in the horrors of my addictions. But I was selling drugs at the time, so I was able to, I guess, what they call prepare fathers, materialistic, you know, materialistic things with their pampers, clothes, wipes, bottles, stuff like that. But spiritually, let me say this, spiritually, I wasn't ready. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that your spirit has to be ready as well. You can have the mental, and the physical, but if the spiritual, if you're not ready, then you'll be detached from what the obstacles that's in front of you, which is your child, and what is your responsibilities and what you know to do the right thing. Because it's a life-changing moment when you have a child. A lot of people don't understand that, but we need them to understand it. That's a life-changing moment. So all the things that Raymond used to do, Raymond has to look at now. He can no longer do that because he have more responsibility than just himself. So that was one thing. Then another thing was, was I willing to change the lifestyle in which I was living, and I wasn't. So that was a challenge. And then being honest with yourself. You know, um, knowing that you can't do, you're not ready for this, but you're not wanting your pride. Pride will get in the way too. The pride got in my way, and I wouldn't say. the things that I needed to say to her in order for her to fully understand where I was coming from. As far, yeah, I'm the daddy. I'm gonna take care. I'm gonna do everything. I love my baby to this day. I love me and my daughter have a beautiful, beautiful relationship. We talk about any and everything, right? And but at that time, I was in the horrors of my addiction, and she understood that as she grew older. But even in the horrors of my addiction, I would take my daughter to do, try to give her the best of whatever I had. And she loved her daddy for the, I guess she called loved it for the effort that her daddy went about his way to make sure she had little things, and that we talk about the big things, but it was the little things that I think my daughter remember more than anything. And then when God delivered me and changed my life, and her daddy became successful and started doing things all around the country and things of that nature, she was more proud to see her daddy overcome the obstacles that he was faced with, and we built an even stronger and unity and bond.
Yeah, but the biggest thing that you said was that maturity. You went through those stages, and that maturity level of understanding responsibilities, not just for your daughter, but for yourself. You know,
Yes, yes, yes,
you accepted
yes.
that those roles that you had to take as a man in order to get to the next level in life, so that you can be responsible for others. You start being responsible for your actions first.
Exactly. But because it's always start with you, and that's one thing I had to learn, because I always thought that by me getting high and doing what I was doing, I wasn't hurting anybody else, but I actually was hurting more people than I even realized. But I had to deal with self first. I had to surrender and change my life in order to help save anybody else's. So it started with me first, and I'm grateful to God that I had a willingness to surrender and ask Him to come into my life and take over my life and help change and shape and mold my life so that I can be a caring father, a friend, know how to be a husband or a significant other, how to be a big brother or a little brother, how to be an uncle, all those things I had to learn all over again because I never knew, I really didn't know how to be that, none of that.
Right. So when we talk about having a role model or having somebody teaching you a lot of these necessities that you need as a man, that wasn't there. I mean, you could look at the,
No,
like
it
you said,
wasn't.
as a father, the figure that he was. If you took up those traits, it wouldn't look nothing like the things you just talked about. And so you
And
decided,
it did.
right?
And,
So
and
you decided not to
unfortunately,
have
bro,
those. You decided not to have those
right, I
instructions.
fought, let me say, I fought against it. But I
Right.
found myself doing everything that I swore I wouldn't do as opposed to what his lifestyle. I was a charmer, I was a caresser. I can woo the women, and I lure them in, and he go one, and then you look up, you got three, and when you look up, it's five. I'm like, oh, whoa, 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 what are you doing? You have
Yeah.
become what you swore that you would never be.
Right. But see, there's a
So
subconscious mind that we see things and we absorb things in our subconscious mind. We're saying in our physical mind, I'm not going to do that. But subconsciously, we're taking things in, and we learn from things that we unintentionally learning from. If you seeing your father or you seeing your people on the street, you're picking up things from these men on the street, whether you want to or
exactly,
not. You know what I'm saying? And so when
yeah,
as a
yeah,
man or as a person, you're going to use that to your advantage when the time permits. You know what I'm saying? So it comes to right back
yeah,
down to you
yeah,
again, to you saying, "Hey, hold up, that's not the path that I want to take." So I have to
exactly,
choose if I want to go left or right, or if I want to go straight ahead. I got to choose that. Nobody
right,
can choose it for me, because
exactly,
once I do make the choice and it's not my choice, or I'm imitating what somebody else doing, I'm mirroring what they're doing, it's going to come back onto me sooner or later.
right. And that was the whole thing with the gangs and the drugs and the lifestyle I was living. I had to change all of that because if I didn't, then I would die. And then would nobody be able to benefit? My children wouldn't be able to benefit from it. The world wouldn't be able to benefit from it. And surely I wouldn't be able to be beneficial from it. So I had to make a decision. And unfortunately, it took God to take me to my lowest, which was I was homeless. I was on the Lord Walker Drive, and I was addicted at the time. And it was just so funny how we talk about this fatherhood. It felt like I didn't have nobody because I didn't have nobody to throw the ball with me. I didn't have nobody there to practice with me. I had my uncles and stuff, but it wasn't the same as your daddy. You know what I'm saying? Teach you how to drive, how to tie, simple stuff, how to dress, how to present yourself, how to talk to the woman. I didn't have that. So all that I had to imitate from the pimps, the players, and the hustlers off the street. I listened to my uncles and my cousins and stuff like that. And that's where I got a lot of my traits from. So again, the resentment was I never had my dad. I always yearned for my daddy to be there, and daddy wasn't there. Daddy was out doing what he was doing. So, it took me most people learn how to drive at 16. It took me to in my 30s, when my buddy taught me how to drive before he went on to glory, and but then after he went on to glory, I didn't even want to drive. Now that's insane for a young man in the hood, don't want to drive. So these are the traits I never learned, so it never even really affected me. And people say it to this day, how does it don't affect you? I said, because they would never talk to me, so it never bothered me.
Right. So you expressed that you have a great relationship with your son, with your daughters. So how do you and your sons interact? How do you guys deal with life like that?
Well, my oldest son and I, we had a relationship. We built the relationship. So when I got out, as I stated, I went and found my son. I knew going through the stages as the years went past, as I was incarcerated, I was preparing myself to do God's will, and what one of God's will was make amends. And the program taught us how to make amends to people whenever do so as possible. So when I got out, I found my son. I went to make amends with him, and at first it kind of rocky, but then it smoothed over in time. We gave it time. So I told my son, I can't take back what happened, but we can build a relationship right now if you want to build one. I apologize. I told him everything. I'm sorry for not being in his life the way I should be, and that we can build a relationship now. I'm better. I'm not on drugs. I'm not in the streets anymore. I'm focused on doing what I need to do, and I can be a father to you now, as opposed to just being a dad.
Yeah, and that's what basically what the foundation of Dynamic Dad is, to empower, to encourage, and to have a fathers be engaged in their children's life, and that comes through stages. A lot of times, like you said,
Hmm.
if there's a situation in life where you made a choice to go one way, and you're not involved in that child's life for whatever reason, a lot of men expect to come back that next day or that next 5 years or 10 years and think, okay, I'm going to pick back up where I never started at. You know what I'm saying? And when I say I never started that, because
Exactly.
in the beginning you didn't have a great relationship with your kids, and so now because you change and you come back out, or you decided I developed a different person in me, that hey, I'm your dad,
Hmm.
and they looking like you dad to who? You know what I'm saying? Dad to who? And,
Exactly.
and, and so
Exactly.
it's a process in that man's mind, but it's also a process in the,
Hmm.
the children's mind that we have to develop a whole nother relationship. Because if you've been going for 5 weeks, you've been going for 5 years, I don't know you the same as I knew you 5 years ago. You know, that
Exactly.
child has grown into a teenager or to an adult, depending on what stage you both were in. And so Dynamic Dad hosts, coach has facilitates classes on co-parenting. Not only co-parenting for as far as helping that father reconnect with that child. And so that's one of the bases of Dynamic Dad, like I said, to encourage, to empower, and to engage fathers to be connected to their
Mm,
kids. And so that's one of the great things about what I'm doing, man, is that passion, that purpose, because I grew up without a father in my life, and so I know what it's like to
right.
have that hole unfilled.
Right.
That hole for so many years unfilled because of the responsibilities that my father didn't want to take on. And so I try to reverse that by helping those men and those children to reconnect with each other by taking them through classes and those stages, man, step 1, 2, 3, or wherever it might be. And there's also the co-parenting with the mother, because that's another relationship that you still got to develop.
Yeah, you have to. And establishing that relationship with my son also came with me establishing a relationship with his mother, letting her know, hey, let's do this, let's start from here. We don't work on the past, we work from the future right now. So we built a relationship, and like I said, I'm preparing my son to take over the company that we built, that God has helped allowed me to build. and hopefully he can take his rightful place in the company, and he can run it, and then the old man can sit back and find other things to do. And so that's another thing. Now dealing with the 16-year-old, and let me go back a little bit, deep there, Dennis, because what I want to say is that's why I developed that piece called resentment, anger, and violence, right? Because we all have some resentment. And the resentment turns to anger, and the anger turns to violence, and the violence erupts out to people have nothing to do with what we're going through, only because of what you said. We don't talk about it. So that's why I wrote that piece, and I wrote it to help men and women as well as youth deal with the situations that they're faced with, because there's a lot of obstacles and not, like you said, that void. So it's a void I walked around with. It was a void you walked around with for so many years, and it's still there to a certain extent. But we just know better how to deal with it. Whereas our youth do not know how to deal with it, and they're walking around mad, they agitated, they're ticking time bomb waiting to explode. So anybody give them anything to explode, they're going to take the focus off them and put it on somebody else, which the focus is with the person in the mirror, and the uh the trials and tribulations which they're going through, they haven't addressed those issues. So that's why I wrote that piece, man, in order to help free a lot of young brothers as well as fathers and mothers as well. Because we all have some resentment from something. Whether it be you didn't get the shoes, you didn't get the clothes, you didn't get the education, you didn't get the parenting. It's some resentment we all walk around with that we haven't addressed, and then that sits there and it starts to build, and then that turns to anger. Now you angry because why didn't I get the shoes Dennis got? Why didn't get go to college where he went to go to college? Stuff like that. And then before you know it, the violence. And when you see a lot of kids on the street today, they just shooting all willy-nilly. That's because they were going through something, they never addressed it, and no one was there to ever take their hand to help them understand what they were going through.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's called trauma, man. We all go through traumatic experiences in life, and it's how we
Mm-hmm.
we learn how to cope with that. And we know in our communities that we grow up in, ain't nobody telling you to go to no therapist if you deal with trauma. It's like, hey,
Exactly.
don't even talk about the trauma that went on in this house. You don't tell nobody what's going on in my house. And then a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
and even the street code, the things going on the street, man, you don't be
There
talking
you
about that
go.
like that. You don't be snitching on
Yeah.
somebody. So you
Right.
never learn how to deal with the trauma. You just learn how to put it in different compartments, and you try to cope with it as best as
Exactly.
possible. And sometimes we self-medicate. Sometimes we use violence. We get physical,
Mm-hmm.
and we come out through
Exactly.
violence. Or sometimes just go crazy, just lose it in your own mind. You walk around talking to
Right.
yourself because you have nobody else
Yeah.
responding to you but yourself. And so we have to be very
Exactly.
careful and very aware what our children are going through, or what our men are going through, what our women are going through, what people are going through.
Exactly.
We still traumatized and got post-traumatic stress disorder just from being slaves, from coming over here from another,
Exactly.
being, kidnapped from another country and then growing up. And each and every day and every year, you learn more about your history. Some never know
Exactly.
about certain things because people were never taught about them, and they're not going to teach you. So as I was growing up, man, there was a lot of things that I wasn't being taught. So what I had to do, man, is I had to start teaching myself. And one day I went and
Yeah.
my eyes woken up. The veils had came off my eyes, and I started picking up books and reading, bro. So I started reading
Yes.
out people that nobody never told me about, and all of a sudden I started coming across who Stephen Biko is. I started learning about who he was fighting over there in South
Mm-hmm.
Africa, and I'm learning about Malcolm X. I'm learning about Martin. I'm learning about Paul Robeson. I'm just going through names, and
Mm-hmm.
Shirley Chisholm. I'm looking about Bethune, Mary Bethune
Right.
Cookman.
Right.
I'm learning about all these people that they not
Yeah.
teach me in school,
Right.
and so I'm learning that
Right.
these are my ancestors. This is my history. You know,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
learning about all these things about
Yeah.
who I am, who made me who I am, but nobody's telling me about that. And so not my father, not my mother, not anybody, because it wasn't their journey. And I bring all that point,
Exactly.
man, and say now that you're on this journey now, man, that you change your life around, you're in your kids' life, and you got all these business going on. What is your journey now that you're out here now in this world teaching these young kids? What does their journey look like for you, man?
Well, the journey is to help them become productive members of society. So we teach them how to build with their hands, teach them a trade that can last them a lifetime versus a quick fix. What I mean by that is, yes, they can get a job at McDonald's, but if they're not able to sustain the job at McDonald's, then they just have a job. But if they have a trade, they can earn a honest living wage with times and inflation's going on today. Like they could be a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, a welder, a painter, stuff like that, mechanic. Then they can earn that. So now they can become entrepreneur because this is an entrepreneurship era right now. Because you can see all across the globe is many people are coming up with different obstacles like the apps and creating different stuff. So this is what I want to teach them and empower to them that you are somebody, and with the right training, you can be even more. No telling where you can go. The sky's the limit. And I tell them, look at me. I never knew. I was just an addict, homeless on the Lower Walker Drive. I didn't know, but until I started to trust in me and believe, then everything that was in me came out of me, and I'm still learning. I'm still going to this day. So just imagine where you'll be in 5 or 10 years as opposed to where I've been in 5 and 10 years. And get them a course, instructor, have an instructor, have them to go through this course and get a certification once they complete these programs to let them know that somebody cares. Because the children want to know, they don't want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care. We can give them all the synopsis and all the analogy that we want to, but until we show them that we care about them, and then and only then will things start to change, and give them some out. Because a lot of times I was looking for an out and I didn't have it. If I had an out, then I would have been out the game. I probably wouldn't have been on the drugs. I probably wouldn't have went to the penitentiary as many times I went and stuff like that. So I probably wouldn't have been homeless. But when you don't have that, then you deal with what you get, what we call street life. Randy Crawford, "Street Life is the only life that I know." You know, that was one of the songs, and Marvin Gaye was the eye opener, Inner City Blues, man. When I was on the Lord Walker Drive, said, make me want to holler, throw up both my hands. This ain't living. And it hit me like an epiphany, bro, because it wasn't living. I was only existing. I was watching Dennis come down Michigan Avenue with his wife and his children, and they going shopping and they having such a good time living life on life terms. And I'm standing there with a cup or a sign in my hand saying help the homeless. So I was only existing. So I always had that in me, but I had to pull it out. I had to have the courage to walk away because I never had the courage to say I didn't want to be in a gang. I didn't have the courage to say, I don't want to sell drugs. I don't want to shoot. I didn't have the courage because I always wanted to be accepted. And right now to this day, that same trending is going on today because our young brothers are doing stuff just to be accepted and to get likes. Now they want to get the likes on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all of those stuff. So they doing a lot of stuff that they normally wouldn't do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, man. I mean, peer pressure is one of the biggest things. We got to understand who is, when you're a child or a youth or just anybody, put it that way, man, because there's a lot of different things that raise raise your kids. It may be social media, it's TV, it's radio, and the peer pressure. They spend more time, as a youth, you spend more time with those things than you do with your actual parents because if they're at work,
Yeah,
you only spend 3 or 4 hours with them at home, but you spend the other
yeah,
20 hours out there in the world, so they're influenced by
right,
a lot more things than what's going on in the home. And then if you don't have a good home life, you don't want to go home. There's nothing there that's going to influence
exactly.
you anyway. So if there's
Yeah,
no food in the house or just the household is not healthy for you, you ain't going home. So when you do go home, it's like
right.
10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night so that you ain't got to hear nothing, see nothing, and be
Just go
involved
straight
with.
to sleep.
Yeah,
Get
just
up
go
and
right to
go back
sleep.
to
You know what
right.
I'm saying? You just go numb
Hmm.
yourself. Go to sleep. I ain't got to deal with hearing nothing. I ain't got nobody talk me. I don't want to be involved. You know what I'm saying? So that's a thing that we always have to discuss and always have to look after when we talk about helping the youth or helping anybody in life. What are they going through at home? Why do they want to?
Right.
What is their environment? You can't put a plant in the middle of an ocean and tell it to grow. It ain't gonna grow. There's nothing there for it to grab roots to because it's in the ocean.
Hmm.
So you got to make sure that it's planted, in a good ground so that they can grow. So, brother, I ain't gonna keep you much
Exactly.
longer, man. But I just want to ask this question, man. If you can, as you talk to these youth, like you talk about, you're the motivational speaker, and you go out to the prisons, and you go out into in the world, and you talk to the youth, and you talk about different men. What is one thing that you want to talk to them about, either about fatherhood or just about life in general, that could give them an inspiration today?
Well, I just want to tell them about accountability and responsibility. It helped change my life. I had to be accountable for the actions in which I took, and I had to be responsible for the change that I wanted to see. And it all just started with me, and it all starts with them. So I'll tell them wherever you're at right now, you don't have to remain there. You can change that right now. And what I'm looking for from you is to take the accountability and responsibility for your actions because you play a part. See, I don't never look at, I can't say what Dennis did to me. I can't say what society did to me. I can only look at the part that I played. So the part that I played is the part that I have to rectify in order to make things go the way that God sees planned. Once I can rectify the parts that I played and correct my wrongs, then I can move on in life. But until I do that, I'll be stuck. So I asked them this: weigh your options. It's a 5 minutes. It's called a 5 minutes. We give them a 10 minute. Weigh your options. Okay, you want to sell drugs and carry guns in this area, or you want to go to school, get an education, and work and earn what you want? Because the difference is when you go to school and you work an honest job and you earning it, then while you can lose a job, it just won't be taken. But on the streets, if you're selling dope or whatever you're doing, robbing or whatever, it can be taken in an instance. And not only could it be taken in an instance, so can your life. Because I tell them all the time, the youth, especially the youth,
Come off from mute. You're on mute.
you don't get to start up. You don't get to start back up. You get one shot at life, and that's it. Once you dead, you dead. Ain't no coming back. You can hit start. So take your life seriously, and every opportunity God gives you, take full advantage of it. Because tomorrow's not promised, not to none of us. Like I didn't know I'd be doing this, but God blessed me to do it. So now I'm doing it to the fullest of my ability because I don't know when my number is called, you know. But I want to leave a legacy and an impression on the people that Raymond really cared about us and he was trying to help us through all endeavors, you know. So I leave with, even with the elders, I tell them, okay, you older, you didn't do it, but you still have opportunity to do it. You can learn to be a father to your child. You can learn to do the things that you didn't do. You know, you have to be willing to do that. And as long as you're willing and able, then you can do it. And then nothing stopping you but you. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So as we work together, man, we are changing the route that our youth are taking, man. That's school to prison pipeline, and changing that around to
Yes.
school to entrepreneurship, because that's one of the biggest
Yes.
things that the obstacles they have in our community. I have teaching them how to read, bro. Because by the time they in
Mm-hmm.
the fourth grade level, they not fourth grade. They're not on the fourth grade level. They're on the second grade level as far as reading. So therefore, they can't pass the state test, um, so that they can go on to higher learning because they're not able to read properly. Not able to read
Right.
properly means they can't fill out an
Right.
application. Not able to fill out an application means they can't get a job. So therefore, you got to go to
Right.
the quick hustle because ain't nobody asked me to fill out an application. They just asked me, do I want to come out
No.
here and make this money? And so my options is few. And so we all know if you only got that many options, you got one or two options. Which one you gonna take? You ain't gonna take the hardest one. You're gonna take the easy one.
Exactly.
And so
Right.
that's the greatest thing about what you're doing, man, is giving them options.
Yeah, we have to give them an option because otherwise they'll still continue to be confused and they'll think that's the way, just like with the men and women come home from prison. That don't mean that you can't become productive members of society. It just means some obstacles that you have to overcome. And once you make a commitment and dedication and determination and discipline to do that, then you're gonna overcome those obstacles, you know, and you'll be able to be whatever God created you to be in the first place, in spite of what you're. See, one of the things I always tell them, the men and women come home from prison as well, I tell them, I will not let the wreckage of my past reflect on my future. So I don't look what's behind me. I look what's before me because what's behind me is already done. But what's before me is it's right there, and it's an opportunity to do more. So that's how I look at it with that. So that's one of the things that we definitely will be doing and continues to do. Feeding the homeless. I can remember when I was homeless. I didn't have nothing to eat. I had to eat out the garbage can. You know what I'm saying? When nobody there. It was a few out there, but it wasn't many out there. And the black communities coming to feed us and say, here. We feel some sympathy for you. Here's a blanket. Here's a change of clothes. So when God delivered me, I became Paul to all, like all. I became all like Paul. You know, I did the homeless thing. I did the substance abuse. I've been incarcerated. I did the gang thing. You know, and all that. So God has changed my life to go back and reach them and pull them out. Those who are willing to come. And that's all we can do right now. And to show them that I'm living proof that it can be done if you want to do it. So this is here, me and you are excuse busters. So they can't make no excuse to say what they can't do because we're living proof of what can be done.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's why I put up my slogan: "Positive an attitude, full of energy and new ideas," because that's a motivational speech. That's a tagline that I have with myself when I'm going through something. I got to remember, stay positive
Mhm.
an attitude, full of energy and new ideas
Yeah.
every single day. So, brother, tell the people where they
Yes.
can find you at. Like I said, this is going to be international, so you got to have people all over the world listen to this in a later date. So, tell them where they can find you at, so they can get connected with you.
But you can go to I'm on all social media, um, Facebook, IG. You can go to my website www.brotherstandtogether.com LLC. Um, you can find me. My email is brotherstandtogether09 at gmail.com. And my number is 773-658-5270. You can call me directly. And my personal email is raymondrichard67 at yahoo.com. Anytime, any place that people want to reach me, you can reach me. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I appreciate the opportunity, Brother Dennis. Let's grow and let's continue to do great things together. And all praise due to Allah.
No doubt, man. We're going to continue to build, man. That's what life is about. So once again, this is Dynamic Dad, positive and attitude, full of energy and new ideas. And y'all know where y'all can find me on all major platforms. Check out Dynamic Dad. Check out YouTube channel. Follow me on IG at Dynamic Dad One, or you go to my website, dynamicdad.org. Go in there, like the page, subscribe to the page, leave me a message. Tell me if you want to be a member. We also look for board members, board, for advisors. Hey, anything, any way you want to get connected to get involved with Dynamic Dad, reach out to me. All right, but I appreciate you for listening, appreciate you for watching. And once again, positive attitude, full of energy, new ideas. My man Raymond, thank you for coming on Chi Town in
Thank
the
you.
house. All right, take care, man.
All
Talk to you
right,
later.
peace. You too.